All right, good morning, everyone. I'd like to call the Tuesday, May 5th, 2020 City Council meeting to order. If you will, please rise, and Councilman Pickens will lead us in our prayer and pledge.
Well, good morning, everyone. If you will, join me in prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, we come to you today asking forgiveness of our many sins. We ask that you watch over and bless those working so hard to overcome this deadly virus. The nurses, doctors, nurse practitioners, physicians, assistants, medical technicians, environmental staff, and everyone involved in the care and treatment of all of us. We ask that you watch over all the firefighters and law enforcement officers as they carry out their duties. Lord, watch over the men and women of America who proudly serve in our armed forces. Also guide and direct this body as we endeavor to serve the residents of this city. Finally, but most importantly, be with the families of those who have lost loved ones to this terrible virus. May you ease their pain and heartache. We know by faith that as each one came to be with you, that you welcome them home with these words, "Welcome home, thy good and faithful servant." We ask for your blessings upon this city. We pray this in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen. If you'll join me in the pledge, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Item 3 is roll call. Sandy, I think you can see that all council members are present. We have Councilman Brooks and Pickens are joined by phone. Item 4 is approval of the minutes of the April 7, 2020 meeting. And the council got a copy of those minutes. If there are no additions or corrections, those minutes will stand approved as read. No proclamations. No items under first reading, so no invitation for public comment. So we get to second reading. Item 1 is a consideration of a budget amendment for Toyota Keep Jackson Beautiful grant.
So moved.
Second. Motion by Councilman Wallace, second by Cisco. Any discussion? All right, do a roll call. Pickens.
Aye.
Dodd. You're muted, Dodd. Johnny? Johnny? Your turn to vote, Mr. Dodd. Councilman Dodd, your turn to vote.
Yes.
Brooks?
Aye.
Buchanan?
Aye.
Rudy?
Yes.
Taylor?
Aye.
Wallace?
Aye.
McKelvey?
Yes.
Cisco?
Yes.
All right, motion passes. Item 2 is a consideration of a budget amendment for the Tennessee Counts Census Grant. And this motion was passed on first reading.
So
Move the
moved.
approval.
Got a motion by Councilmember Buchanan, seconded by Brooks. Any discussion? All right, Pickens?
Aye.
Dodd?
Aye.
Brooks?
Aye.
Buchanan?
Yes.
Rudy?
Yes.
Taylor?
Yep.
Wallace?
Yes.
McKelvey?
Yes.
Disco?
Yes.
All right, motion passes. Item 3 is consideration of a budget amendment to reclass animal control from solid waste fund to general fund.
So move.
Motion by Cisco, second by Wallace. Any discussion? All right, start the roll. Pickens?
Yes.
Dodd?
Yes.
Brooks?
Aye.
Buchanan?
Yes.
Pretty?
Yes.
Taylor?
Yes.
Wallace,
Yes.
McKelvey,
Yes.
Cisco.
Yes.
All right, the motion passes. Item 4 is a consideration of a budget amendment to reclass street sweeping, property, and leaf maintenance from solid waste fund to general fund.
So moved.
Motion by Pickens,
Second.
Second.
second by Dodd. Any discussion? All right, Pickens,
Yes.
Dodd,
Yes.
Brooks,
Aye.
Buchanan,
Yes.
Pretty,
Yes.
Taylor,
Yes.
Wallace,
Aye.
McKelvey,
Yes.
Cisco,
Yes.
and motion passes. Item 5 is a consideration of a budget amendment to write off interfund receivables and payables between general fund and solid waste fund.
So moved.
Motion by Cisco,
Second.
second by Dodd. Any further discussion? All right, Pickens,
Aye.
Dodd,
Yes.
Brooks,
Aye.
Buchanan,
Yes.
Pretty,
Yes.
Taylor,
Yes.
Wallace,
Aye.
McKelvey,
Yes.
Cisco.
Yes.
All right, that motion passes. Item 6 is a consideration of a budget amendment to write off interfund receivables and payables between general fund and Sportsplex fund.
So moved.
Motion by Wallace,
Second.
have a second by Cisco.
Second.
All right, any further discussion?
Yes. Just so we're all clear on this, per our last discussions, this was not to exceed 400,000. Could Mr. Arnold come up and talk about some potential impact we'll see due to loss of revenues through the end of this fiscal year?
Yes, good morning.
Good morning.
A good point, Councilman Tyler. When we proposed and prepared this amendment originally, as Councilman Taylor has described, this was an amount not to exceed $400,000. That number was based upon the status of operations out at the Sportsplex at that particular time. Certainly predated the COVID-19 impact, which has created a great deal of uncertainty across the city, but particularly at the Sportsplex operations. Future tournaments, some have been canceled, some are on hold, some still may happen. The Sportsplex management team has, under the direction and leadership of the mayor, have made some efforts to reduce costs during this interim time. So I think that the takeaway point is that the results at the Sportsplex for FY20 right now are still very much in flex and unclear. And hopefully the actions that have been taken will allow us to stay within this budget amendment, which is a maximum of $400,000. But there is a possibility that the impact could be more than this.
If we do exceed the budget amendment amount, then we'll have to bring it back to council to amend the amendment. So we're still looking at the impact. We have a skeleton crew at the Sportsplex right now. And so we won't know the impact for probably June would be known our full budget impact potentially.
Mayor, are the games canceled through the month of May?
Yes.
Having a problem?
Yeah, the games
Have
are
they been canceled through June?
They have not. We're going to make that determination the end
I
of.
can't hear anything.
Thank you.
Councilman Dodd, you can't hear? All right, there's somebody coming. Hold on one second, everybody.
I hadn't touched it.
Okay. Can you hear us now?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So your question was, Councilman Dodd, have the games been canceled? Yes, they've been canceled through the end of May. Jason Compton and I are meeting weekly, and we'll make a decision by May 15th on the tournament starting June 5th. And so we'll make that determination based on what the state, our health department thinks. So moving forward, we'll figure that out.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions or discussions? All right, we'll start roll call. Pickens.
Aye.
Dodd.
Yes.
Brooks.
Aye.
Cannon.
Yes.
Pretty.
Yes.
Taylor.
Yes.
Wallace.
Aye.
McKelvey.
Yes.
Cisco.
Yes.
All right, motion passes. All right, item 7 is consideration of a budget amendment to write off interfund receivables and payables between debt service fund and Sportsplex fund.
So moved.
Motion by Cisco,
Second.
second by
Second.
Brooke. All right, any further discussion?
We don't anticipate any impact on the debt service fund
No.
over this. Okay.
That would be correct. The semi-annual, all the debt service payments for this fiscal year have already been made.
Okay. Thank you.
Well,
All right, any further questions or discussions? All right, start the roll call. Pickens.
Aye.
Dodd.
Yes.
Brooks.
Yes.
Cannon.
yes.
Pretty.
Yes.
Taylor.
Yes.
Wallace.
Aye.
McKelvey.
Yes.
Cisco.
Yes.
And motion passes. Item 8 is consideration of an ordinance to annex and an ordinance to zone property referred to as Kingston Creek located on Cooper Anderson Road, east of Emerald Breeze Drive and south of Gatewick Drive, comprising of 53.73 acres more or less. For both zonings classified for the annexation area are S2FH, Single Family Residential Special Flood Hazard District.
Mr. Chairman, would you like to annex and vote on that separate and to zone separate, or?
Yes, sir. So we did the same motions that we did the first meeting, vote the motion to annex on one and then a motion to zone.
I move to annex the area.
Yep, motion to
Second.
annex, Councilman Buchanan. Who was the second?
Pickens.
Pickens, second. All right, any further discussion on the annexation? All right, roll call vote. Pickens.
Aye.
Dodd.
Yes.
Brooks.
Aye.
Buchanan.
Yes.
Pretty.
Yes.
Taylor.
Yes.
Wallace.
Aye.
McKelvey.
Yes.
Cisco.
Yes.
All right, the motion passes. Now we're here to have a motion for the rezoning of the property.
So moved.
Moved by Brooks, second by Dodd. Any discussion on the zone? Here we go. It's good.
Question real quick for Stan on the zoning, the special flood hazard zoning. What does that carry? What additional?
There's a little bit of floodplain right along the creek. It's not very wide, but because it's there, it has the flood hazard on it. And more than likely, the subdivision will develop with, that being, reflected on the plat. So it'll just mean as long as structures and are out of the floodplain, then we're okay. Some mortgage companies make people carry flood insurance, but more than likely, the developer with this little bit of flood that's there may do a letter of map revision and just have it removed with fill somewhere during the construction phase.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, any further discussion? All right, roll call vote. Pickens.
Aye.
Dodd.
Yes.
Brooks.
Yes.
Buchanan.
Yes.
Pretty.
Yes.
Taylor.
Yes.
Wallace.
Yes.
McKelvey.
Yes.
Cisco.
Yes.
All right, that motion passes. Next, we move on to new business. And this item, first item under new business, doesn't require a vote. This is strictly informational. We'll have an update on FY21 budget and COVID-19 impact. And I'll call on Bobby Arnold to start that discussion.
Thank you, Mayor Conger. Using some new technology this morning, I trust everyone can see the document on the screen. I did email you this document earlier this morning for your review. I've been asked this morning to provide you a brief update or summary on the status of our FY21 budget work. As I'm sure you understand, the environment that we're preparing the budget in this year is an extremely fluid situation, and the data, the numbers that I'm going to share with you today would be the status as of today. Keep in mind that we are working each day to project the impact both on the remainder of our FY20 fiscal year as well as the impact on the FY21 year, both on our revenues as well as our cost structure in response to the negative impact on our revenue. My first comment on the general fund for the
if you're not speaking except for Bobby, go ahead and mute. That way we're getting a lot of feedback.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. Maybe that'll be better. As I mentioned, I want to comment on the general fund for the FY20 year. As of now, we're projecting or estimating total revenues for this current fiscal year that we're in right now to be about $4 million less than what we experienced in FY19. Most of that revenue shortfall, the majority of it would be attributable to COVID-19, but not all of that in total. Another big factor would be that sometimes the grants from year to year, both revenue and expense on grants from year to year, it varies from year to year. And some of this impact might be due to grants, but specific to the COVID-19 impact for this year, we're currently projecting that our local sales tax for the FY20 year will be about $1.2 million, or 5% less than it was in FY19. Another example of the impact would be the hotel motel tax. We're currently estimating about $150,000, or a 22% decrease this year from FY19. And then finally, state shared revenues are reflected at about a 3% decrease, or estimated at about 3% decrease for this current fiscal year over the FY19 year. So about $4 million. Now, on the positive side, the city this year has been operating at the lower cost structure than we did in FY19. In addition to that, the city has taken some decisive steps to help mitigate this revenue shortfall. We've had a pause on filling any vacant positions. As you're aware, we've implemented a furlough employee program for a certain number of employees. Director level positions here at the city salaries will be reduced. We've made efforts to manage overtime. We have restricted future discretionary spending and capital investments at this point. Just a few of the things that have taken place. So as a result of that, while the next couple of months have a great deal of uncertainty remains about them, I think at the end we do have a chance to mitigate some of that revenue shortfall for this year and possibly approach a break-even situation for the general fund for this fiscal year. Looking forward to FY21 for the general fund, we are projecting beyond FY20 revenue levels. We're projecting another decrease in revenue of about $750,000 or about 1% for next year. Again, COVID-19 impact is substantial, and I will go over some of those numbers with you here briefly in just a second. But while we do have the negative impact of COVID-19, we do have some mitigating positive factors on the revenue side, particularly with some grants that we're not receiving this year, as well as some growth, nominal growth in some of the other revenue items, such that in total we're projecting again about a 1% decrease in FY21 revenues from where we are estimating we will end up in FY20. I might take just a minute to so that you can get some flavor, if you will, for the impact on our revenues next year. I might share just a few highlights with you. A positive one to begin with. The report we've received from the property assessor's office indicates that we've had a nominal growth in our assessed value, such that if we can maintain the same collection percentages as we have historically on property taxes, we may see about a 2% growth in property taxes next year. We have a series of tax equivalent payments that the city receives from various organizations. Currently, that's projected a decrease next year of about 4%. Hotel motel tax next year. Right now, we've consulted with the convention and community economic development people and other sources as well. And right now, we're projecting about an 18% decrease in hotel motel tax revenues from FY20 levels. As a general comment, license and fees that the city generates kind of on local business activity, I would kind of describe those next year as flat would be a good way to describe those in aggregate for a total group of revenue accounts. Specific to state shared revenues, we have 4 or 5 categories of state shared revenues, things like sales tax, gasoline taxes, TVA in lieu of payments, beer tax. There may be one or two more there, but those state shared revenues are allocated to municipalities on a per capita basis. We've been in contact on a daily, weekly basis with representatives at the Comptroller's Office, Department of Revenue, and certainly with MTAS. And currently, right now, our aggregate per diem, per capita per diem for those revenue sources reflects about a 5% decrease from FY20 budgeted levels. If you look at the entire category for state revenue allocations, because there are others in there that are not allocated on a per capita basis, state shared revenues right now are forecasted next year to be about 6.8% below FY20 numbers. Looking through the report here, obviously with some of the city facilities next year, we've have revenue projections that are below FY20 levels for this year, but I'll probably stop there. But those would be some general observations about next year's revenues to help you get a flavor for kind of what the impact is. Moving to the expense side of things right now, while a lot of work has been done on the expense structure for next year to align that as best we can with the revenue impact, we still have a great deal of work to do. Currently, with that 1% reduction in revenues in FY21 below FY20 numbers, right now our expenses are still in at about a 4.4% increase. That, as you can see, that creates a projected deficit next year for the general fund of about $3.1 million. But we have we're continuing to work each day, and we have a lot of work to do on the budget during the month of May and the month of June. Let me pause there on the general fund and see if there are any comments or questions, and I have a couple of quick comments on the solid waste, debt service, and capital outlay fund.
Hey, Bobby. So what you're saying is basically we've seen the decrease because of COVID-19, but we've made the adjustments in the current fiscal year for what the numbers you're showing here, that potentially we would hit a break-even point because of those adjustments we've made recently.
Well, yeah, basically that is what I'm saying, but let me be perfectly clear. It's very difficult to estimate exactly where our revenues and expenses will end up at June 30th. We've worked really hard on these estimates that I'm sharing with you today, and this is where they are today. Some of the efforts we made on the expense side are much more certain. They can be calculated and measured, and I feel pretty good about our projections on those sides. The revenue projections for the remainder of this fiscal year are just what they are. They're our best estimates today, but they could certainly have a larger negative impact than what we've allowed for. But they could be close or they could be slightly better. We'll just have to see.
Sure.
Okay, if there are no other questions, I'll move on to the solid waste fund. Just one important thing for you to remember when you're looking at these numbers this morning or later on today.
Excuse me, just a minute. Mr. Chairman, if I may, and this is just a general statement with respect to our congressmen and our senators moving up to the second round of stimulus. What is the possibility of municipalities getting any funds at all?
It's a great question. I know that Congress has introduced a bipartisan $250 billion package for municipalities and county governments with a population under 500,000. The president has indicated that he wants to see a stimulus package for those local governments. I think the holdup is somewhere maybe in the Senate. The Senate has kind of gone back and forth on what they want. So right now, I'm in constant conversation with those offices. They're working, trying to get something drafted. But at the local level, what we have to do now is plan as if there is no stimulus month funds, and we have to plan to make sure that we're going to take care of ourselves. And if they come, that is fantastic. We also have another item. Next item, we'll talk about our FEMA recovery for this disaster too. So that'll be some relief, not a lot, but that'll be.
Yeah, but I asked, Mr. Chairman, that you would respectfully get in touch with our House of Representatives and our senators.
I talk with Congressman Kustoff's office almost every day, and weekly with our Senate office.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
I can be brief on the comments for the next three funds. I'll move through this more quickly. On the solid waste fund, as you look at these numbers this morning and in the days ahead, it's important to remember the budget amendments that you all passed this morning to reclassify animal care expense, property and leaf maintenance, and street sweeping from the solid waste fund to the general fund. That is budgeted to reflect that in FY21, plus for the purposes of discussion of the budget, both the general fund numbers for FY20 that you looked at, as well as the FY20 estimated solid waste numbers that you're looking at now, that also reflects the reclassification of that expense from the solid waste fund to the general fund. So any questions? Yes.
Yes, to that point, does the general fund estimated balance or that you have down there, well, I guess the surplus deficit, does that reflect the Sportsplex transfers as well?
It does not reflect the Sportsplex transfers, just simply because of the fact that when we present the final budget for FY21 in the weeks ahead, we will be budgeting for that transition to roll the Sportsplex fund into the general fund effective with the FY21 year, right? So the reclassification of the solid waste expense is with the budget amendments will be taking place before June 30th of this year. So that's the reason we presented it this way. But to answer your question, it does not reflect the general fund numbers right now. Do not reflect the incorporating the Sportsplex fund next year.
What about for FY20? Does the 538,000 reflect the impact that we just voted on from the Sportsplex fund?
It does not reflect that. Actually, what we voted on for the Sportsplex fund was the write-off of the due to and from balances between the general fund and the Sportsplex fund. And so that number is yet to be determined. So that is not reflected in the FY20 numbers for the general fund.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Related to the debt service fund, just a couple of comments as you look at these numbers, particularly when you're kind of comparing FY20 to FY21. Remember that in FY20, this current fiscal year, revenues and expenses in the debt service fund are both impacted by the $6 million new debt issue that we had back in the fall. Currently, we do not have any new debt issue forecasted for FY21. You might remember that FY21 is a year where our existing debt service payments on previous debt issues, we do have a bump in the requirements. And then two final comments on debt service. Councilman Taylor, I know this is we've been a little inconsistent here, but what we have done on FY21 for the debt service fund, we have already on this schedule included the annual debt service requirements on some Sportsplex specific outstanding debt. That's about $137,000 a year, if I remember correctly. So when you look at this $11,046,000 worth of projected expense for next year, that does include the required debt service on Sportsplex. The reason that we did that was to help us ensure that we budgeted revenues adequate to cover next year's debt service. And this will be my final comment on the debt service fund for the benefit of everyone. With the increase in debt service requirements next year, this $11,046,000 worth of revenue for the debt service fund does reflect the redirection or allocation of property tax dollars that previously went to the capital outlay fund. It redirects those to the debt service fund for next year in order for us to be able to service our debt requirements next year. Okay, just a couple of quick comments about the capital outlay fund. Again, as you see it, review these numbers this morning and the days ahead. When you're looking at FY20 and FY21, keep in mind that FY20, again, those results reflected the bond issue from last fall. Again, no debt issue for FY21. You'll also notice in the FY20 column that the estimated expense for FY20, that is currently blank at this point. The reason for that is we are still working to determine exactly what our expense in the capital outlay fund is going to be for the remainder of this fiscal year. We have put a freeze on capital investments at this point, but we do have some projects that have been started, and we're trying to ascertain exactly where we're going to end up at. So when we have that number, we'll put that in here. And then finally, as it relates to the FY21 proposed capital outlay fund at this point, what's reflected here would be funding of about $1.5 million from the state grant. Mayor Conger may want to speak to that here in a second, but we also have about $100,000 worth of funding from the Improve Act that's going into the capital outlay fund to allow us to invest in some better equipment for pothole maintenance. And then finally, we have, I don't recall the exact amount, but the Metro Drug Fund has some funding in here for their capital proposal for next year. So at this point, we have $1,670,000 worth of funding for the capital outlay fund next year and the related expense. Any questions that I might can answer? Okay, thank you.
Bobby, I'm sorry, I was trying to unmute you really quick. Please. Can we mute Susan? Thank you. Bobby, one.
If you are not talking, mute right now, please.
I'll try to speak over her. Bobby, one quick question here. When we see deficits in these funds, they all come back to the general fund. Is that correct?
Well, I would answer it this way, Paul. Yes, the debt service, cash deficits in funds are the response will always come back to the general fund. Those would be cash deficits. Actual deficits in funds, and you may notice on the schedule, because of the uncertainty today about exactly where we're going to end up at June 30th, I did not put on the schedule an estimate for ending fund balances at June 30th or beginning fund balances at July 1 of the new fiscal year. I will be adding that type of information in the days ahead when those numbers become a little bit more certain. But you'll notice, I would use the debt service as an example. If you look at the FY20 estimate right now for the debt service fund, that reflects an $877,000 deficit for the year. We are hopeful that our ending fund balance in the debt service at June 30th will be a number close to that deficit number right there. So I guess, Councilman Tyler, to answer your question, fund balances are available, hopefully, in some of these funds. But at the end of the day, if there is a cash deficit in a fund, that is the responsibility of the general fund.
Thank you for that clarity.
Okay, you're welcome.
Hey, Mr. Arnold, I know kind of our normal timeline has been shifted because of various things, but with the understanding that we have to have 2 readings and budget hearings and involvement of the budget committee, do we have any kind of planned timeline at this point of when that'll all kind of play out?
You're correct that we will have to have 2 readings of the proposed budget for next year. I think Councilman Taylor has kind of a game plan for the budget committee work. I might let him speak to that. I know I've had discussions with Mayor Conger, and we have talked about the likelihood of having a couple of two called council meetings to consider the budget during the month of June. So.
Yeah, you know, as we kind of consider the timeline has been skewed due to recent events. I guess the question to ask right now, rather than ask it in a week or so when the budget committee meets, is would it be feasible to do to have budgets drafted by the council meeting in June? Where I'm worried about is, you know, last year there was no budget hearing. It seems like we're headed in that direction again.
Direction again.
What's that?
No, we're not. We're going to have budget hearings if we have to have multiple meetings in the month of June. We're going to have budget hearings. We're going to make sure this process is as put together and transparent as possible. We're right now going through and finalizing what our overall numbers are with departmental budget, factoring in department head pay cuts, my pay cut, and then factoring what the percentage reduction is for the departments that have the availability to do that. And then once we have those numbers for the overall line items for the departments, then they're going to have to make the decisions on where that percentage and that money comes from. And then we'll be able to present that budget to the council. So I would probably say worst case scenario would be second week of June.
So that would be a hearing, and then we'd have what you're saying is those two hearings at the end of June, we would be considering the budget. The question I have is, as you present your draft budget, are we giving ourselves enough opportunity if there things have to change?
Yes.
Okay. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Bobby or anyone regarding finance? Item 2 under new business is a consideration of a contract award to Schaus LLC. FEMA Public Assistance Project Application, Grants Portal Entry, and Project Management. And all this time, Susan, now you're not muted. I mean, now you're muted.
How about that? Somebody keeps playing with my little buttons up there. The governor, as you know, the governor and the mayor declared a state of emergency, which helps the city to streamline processes that would normally take much longer. And this contract will help us keep track of our spending and potentially be reimbursed by FEMA. But as the mayor said, this company will assist the city with the coronavirus pandemic administration assistance, with FEMA and project management. And I will tell you that several years ago, the city used this company when we had some tornadoes come in, and they proved to be an asset in fund recovery, and they're a really good company.
This company is also being used by Madison County EMA, Madison County, and West Tennessee Healthcare. And the fee for their service is completely reimbursable from FEMA.
Mr. Chairman, I am familiar with this company as we used them years ago. And wait, Susan, are you cutting up? I'm very familiar with this company.
Wind tunnel over there or something.
The buttons keep going on and off. I'm sorry. My hands are here.
You're hearing a lot of background noise, Susan. That's why they keep cutting you off, because it's really loud.
I'm very familiar with this company. I think we used them twice since I've been on the council. And as Susan said, they're very effective and efficient. And I would recommend that if we have to do a motion, I would motion that we accept their proposal.
I have a motion from Councilman Buchanan.
Second.
Susan's wind tunnel off. There we go. All right. Any further discussion?
If we were not to use
Mr.
it,
Chairman,
Hold
we have to
on.
keep up with that in-house.
The question is, we were not to use it. Yes, we got to keep up with it in-house with a staff that doesn't have any experience on FEMA reimbursement.
Mr. Chairman,
The line item that is reimbursable for, hold on one second. The service is completely reimbursable outside of whatever else we get reimbursed for. So it's a different line item of reimbursement for their service. So it's completely reimbursable within the FEMA documentation. All right, was there another question?
yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, I noticed that we received a revised version early this morning. What's the difference between that and the one we looked at last Thursday's meeting, please?
The date, the date was off on the signature page. So they just changed it. They changed it. I think it was a 2011 date and they changed it to a 2020 date. Everything else is exactly the same.
Right.
All right, any other questions? All right, have a motion and a second. You have a second, Sandy? Okay. All right. All right, so we'll start the roll call. Pickens? Councilman Pickens? All right, Dodd?
Yes.
Brooks? They're probably both muted. You don't know it because they're on the phone. Buchanan?
Yes.
Pretty?
Yes.
Taylor?
Yes.
Wallace?
Yes.
McKelvey? Russ, you just muted yourself before you spoke.
Yes.
They're recording now.
Cisco?
Yes.
All right, the motion passes. We had 2 abstain, I think, because they're on mute. Motion passes. Hold on one second again, please. Okay, Item 3 is consideration of a resolution to approve substantial amendment to annual action plan 2019-2020 community development. I think I saw Ms. Faison on the call there, and I'll turn it over to her.
Good morning. How are you all?
Morning.
Good morning.
As some of you may know, we received, the Community Development Department for the City of Jacksonville received $342,526 in supplemental CDBG funding to combat the coronavirus pandemic under the CARES Act. And so what we wanted to do is amend our current annual action plan budget to include these funds so they will be available as soon as possible. Our fiscal year ends June 30th. However, we want, again, like I said, we want them available as soon as possible. Mr. Reed and I, for the last month or so, have been consulting with others to see what would be the best use of these funds. And for now, we think that the highest priority would be to use to prevent homelessness for those that have lost their jobs, have had reduced hours, and cannot pay their rent, mortgage, and or utilities. And then after that, if there's funding left, we'll look at other needs as they come about. So we're asking to amend the current budget. Any questions on that?
Thank you, Latanya. I just want to echo that. I mean, we look at from the CARES Act that evictions were suspended, and then a lot of our energy authority, I know JEA's one has just suspend cutoffs, but that doesn't mean that the bills and the rent didn't accrue. So we do know that once that ends, that those will be due, and so I think it's a good use of funds.
Right, and also we spoke with Mr. Matthew Marshall, and he actually called JEA to get a feel of what delinquencies were right now. And he said about 3,500 people are delinquent.
Mr. Chairman, and Mrs. Payson,
Yes,
now, you usually have a 30 day where you got to wait
yes,
and action plan, but isn't it, is it
it,
just
it,
5 days?
yes, sir. HUD provided waivers to to decrease. There you go. Expedite the time frame. So we only have 5 days for a comment period rather than 30. Okay.
Now, is it going to be United Way is going to control the program? Or?
Yes, we're going to source the funds through United Way because they already have a vetted program set up to do so. They are already doing rental utility assistance for clients.
The program that United Way started was with the relief fund through the foundation. So it's a collaborative effort. It's United Way and Southwest Human Resources Agency that are helping administer the current funds that have been donated to the foundation for the disaster relief. And so that mechanism is in place already.
Could be a collaboration. Is that right, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I move the approval.
Second.
I have a motion as a second. Is there any further discussion?
How many dollars have been distributed through the coronavirus fund right now?
It's a great. I think that last number I had was close to 60,000 was raised, and I don't know what the distribution has been yet. I don't know if they've exhausted those funds yet or not.
Okay.
And if you check your network, there's a program going on right now. Make a pledge, Paul.
Does that go to the coronavirus? I don't think that goes to the coronavirus.
Yeah,
you can choose what you want to go to.
Make a pledge.
Harvey's over here fundraise.
Oh, Lord.
All right. Any further discussion on that?
So citizens would access these funds through the United Way, apply, and then it's funded based off that process, basically.
Yeah. So the screening process is through United Way. The actual case management process is through Southwest.
Okay.
All right. Any further discussion? Roll call vote. Pickens? Dodd?
Yes.
Brooks? Buchanan?
Yes.
Pretty?
Yes.
Taylor?
Yes.
Wallace?
Yes.
McKelvey?
Yes.
Cisco?
Yes.
The motion passes.
Now, Mr. Chairman, when we say the new grant application, this includes the annual action budget plan, right? This is included in that.
The amendment to the current action plan.
Yes, okay.
Ms. Faison, would you mind distributing to the council the current distribution from the COVID-19 fund? Just for our records, if you could get that from Matthew.
Oh, sure. We'll get that.
All right, next is a consideration of a resolution to approve an application for the governor's local government support grant. This is what Bobby alluded to earlier in his discussion on our capital outlay budget. So if you all remember, originally the governor's first pass was 100 million for the entire state. Our allocation was about 752,000 for local projects, capital projects, road resurfacing, things like that. The governor has amended this, and we'll be presenting this when the legislature comes back in June for $200 million, which will double what we have, which will put about $1.5 million. Caveats to that are we have to determine what we're spending the money on, pass a resolution, and pass a budget before July 1, because we have no other capital funding at this time. The plan is for utilizing roughly, give or take, $475,000, give or take, however much that ends up being, if we get approved for the TA grant for the starting restructure process of airways. And then the rest of those funds will be to street resurfacing. And so that's what this resolution is for, to inform the state that we want to apply for the grants and what the grant monies will be used for.
Move to approve.
Second. Moved by Taylor, second by Brooks. Any further discussion on that? All right. Roll call vote. Pickens.
Aye.
Dodd.
Yes.
Brooks.
Yes.
Buchanan.
Yes.
Pretty.
Yes.
Taylor.
Yes.
Wallace.
Yes.
McKelvey.
Yes.
Cisco.
Yes.
All right, passes. Item 5 is a consideration of street acceptance request for Winchase Section 17B, numbers 325 through 381, Stornoway Drive.
So move.
Motion by Buchanan,
Second.
second by Dodd. Any discussion?
What's the age of the street, Stan?
Well, these would have gone through the normal process, so they've just recently been final surfaced in most cases.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? All right, roll call. Pickens.
Aye.
Dodd.
Yes.
Brooks. Buchanan.
Yes.
Pretty.
Yes.
Taylor.
Yes.
Wallace.
Yes.
McKelvey.
Yes.
Cisco.
Yes.
All right, motion passes. Item 6 is a consideration of street acceptance request for Shepherd's Field Section 8A and 9B, at number 62 through 98 Samuel Drive and 3 through 22 Jeremiah Drive.
So move.
Moved by
Second.
Cisco, second by Brooks. Any discussion on this? All right, roll call. Pickens.
Aye.
Dodd.
Yes.
Brooks.
Yes.
Buchanan.
Yes.
Pretty.
Yes.
Taylor.
Yes.
Wallace.
Yes.
McKelvey.
Yes.
Cisco.
Yes.
All right, the motion passes. Item 7 under new business, consideration of a street acceptance request for Shepherd's Field Section 10, numbers 107 through 155 Abraham Drive and 45 through 58 Nathan Drive and all of Jabez Cove.
So moved.
Moved by Cisco,
Second.
second by Dodd. Any further discussion?
Mayor, just to clarify what I told Paul, I think I told you wrong, Paul. It's gone through the maintenance period. So the maintenance usually lasts for a year. So they pay, they do the binder, and the binder coat can stay down for a period. And then when they put the final surface on, they have to keep maintenance for a year, and then we take it over. So it's, in most cases, 12
Yeah.
months old.
Thank you. My question's, if we're accepting roads that have 5 years, 10 years of life on them, and we need to go ahead and budget accordingly.
In most cases, that wouldn't be, if anything, you have subdivisions that might stay in binder longer because construction is slow or they're wanting to get to a certain level of construction. So you might have that, but the final surface usually is, we only hold them for a period of a year before we, release them and take it over.
Thank you.
All right, so we have a motion and a second, Sandy. Yeah, okay. All right, any further discussion? All right, roll call. Pickens.
Aye.
Dodd.
Yes.
Brooks.
Yes.
Buchanan.
Yes.
Pretty.
Yes.
Taylor.
Yes.
Wallace.
Yes.
McKelvey.
Yes.
Cisco.
Yes.
All right, motion passes. Item 8 is a consideration of reappointment of Pam Finney to the Jackson Energy Authority Board. And I believe we have Ms. Finney on the phone. So if there are any questions for Ms. Finney, you can ask her.
So move, Ms. Finney.
We have a motion by Councilman Buchanan, second by Dodd. Any questions for Ms. Finney?
Thank you for your service.
How long have you served on the board?
She's there. Hold on a second.
I'm sorry.
I got an email here that she was having computer problems this morning, but it appears.
Okay, she's on. Yeah, it says she's on the phone. She says she's having computer problems. So
I'll retract my question to move.
all right.
Yeah. Been moved and seconded.
Yeah, moved and second. Your question is retracted. Roll call vote. Pickens.
Aye.
Dodd.
Yes.
Brooks.
Yes.
Cannon.
Yes.
Pretty.
Yes.
Taylor.
Yes.
Wallace.
Yes.
McKelvey.
Yes.
Cisco.
Yes.
All right, motion passes. Item 9 is a consideration of appointment of Kelly Boyd to the Jackson Transit Authority Board.
So moved. So moved.
We have a motion by Brooks, second by, is it going to be a second by Pickens?
Yes.
All right, we have Ms. Boyd on the line. You have any questions for her?
Ms. Boyd?
Yes. Hello.
How are you doing this morning?
Well, how are you?
I'm well. This is Councilman Taylor. We appreciate you volunteering to serve on this board. Just a couple of quick questions. JTA provides a critical service to our community, and I'm curious where if you have a passion for this service, and if you could just talk a little bit about that.
Oh my.
Sure. I do understand that JTA provides a service to this community that is of great value. Not everyone has a car or multiple forms of transportation. This gives us an opportunity as far as our economy, helping us get people to work, home, church, all over the city. So I want to see it continue to serve our people and potentially expand, and I'll be ready to help in any way I can.
Not to speak for Ms. Boyd, but she is the enrollment management director at Lane College. So a lot of Lane College students rely on JTA to get to and from campus.
Absolutely.
So moved.
We already have a motion and second, right?
Moved and seconded.
Yeah.
Call for question.
All right. Roll call. Pickens.
Aye.
Dodd.
Yes.
Brooks.
Yes.
Buchanan.
Yes.
Pretty.
Yes.
Taylor.
Yes.
Wallace.
Yes.
McKelvey.
Yes.
Cisco.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Yes.
All right. Item 10 is a consideration of invoices over $10,000.
So moved.
Moved by Dodd.
Second.
Second by Cisco. Any discussion? Council, please vote. Pickens.
Yes.
Dodd.
Yes.
Brooks.
Yes.
Buchanan.
Yes.
Pretty.
Yes.
Taylor.
Yes.
Wallace.
Yes.
McKelvey.
Yes.
Cisco.
Yes.
All right. Anything else coming before the council? All right. If not, meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you all.